Hello, my friends. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Logik Live. There are already so many people in the chat. What a wonderful way to start the episode. Hello, FlyFX, Yan, Claire, Sinan, Sibyl, Tom Hondrix, FX editor Charles Quinn, Gavin Milkovich, Andy Milkus is in the house, Austin Campbell is in the house after a wedding and a honeymoon. Hello. Annie Flame. There's too many names. Brian Bailey, Luke Bellarive, Mike Quinn, Hardave, Mark Wellington. Fred Warren is in the chat and on camera. Ben Vaccaro. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. This is great. This is great. I spent my whole introduction-y thing just calling out all the friendly faces who are here in the chat. And it's already time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Logik Live, episode 152, which is a very large number. I'm very, very excited to jump right in, and we are going to jump right in. But I have one tiny little introduction-y message to say, just for the sake of doing, because I always do. But we're trying to keep these opening introductions shorter and shorter, just so we can jump right into the meat of it. But I just couldn't help it today because we have to let everyone know that Flame 2026.2 update is here. Now, you might be asking yourself, what are some of those new features? I'm glad you asked. Today, we are here to welcome not one, not two, but three Autodesk Flame product owners who have taken time out of their busy schedules to take time with you and I to talk about all the wonderful new features. I'm so excited to welcome them onto the show. They are here. Stéphane Labrie, Fred Warren, and Francis Bouillon. Hello. Welcome to Logik.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. And the guests, the crowd has gone wild for the show. And they're probably familiar with Fred and Stephane, but not everyone may be familiar with our third product owner here, Francis Bouillon. I think in years past, we've done little introductions for Fred and Stephane over the years. I would love if we can maybe just get a little introduction of yours and maybe talk about kind of what your specialty is on the team, just as a way to ease into our show today, if you don't mind taking it away.
Yeah, sure. So, I've been at Autodesk for a long time, but I left for a few years and I came back to give Fred a hand recently. But what I specialize on in the team was action, the 3D tools, rendering, and machine learning some time ago. And now what I'm doing in the team is really concentrating on machine learning and the tooling, so around action and batch.
Great, and obviously that's like the exciting topic of our age right now, machine learning. So it's one topic, but it's kind of it's a little big. It's a lot on your plate there. And to action, like that's one node, of course, but it's kind of a special node, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So amazing. That's wonderful. And as for the whole team here, I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday so far. It's a beautiful day outside over here.
It's
not here.
First snow of the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really?
It's
Snow?
winter's coming.
Snow? That's right. You're way up north, aren't you? It's a beautiful day, 61 Fahrenheit over here in New York City. So not quite snowing weather, but anyway, lovely to have you. Thanks for that little introduction, Francis. I think we'll just start talking about 2026.2, and I think our first presentation is with Stephane. What do you got for us?
Absolutely, yes. So let's move to my screen. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. So let's look at the basic technologies item for this update. You'll see it's quite straightforward. So operating system-wise, it's quite similar. If you were running 2026 or update 1, well, as you can see, well, there's the same Rocky Linux versions that are supported. One addition to macOS is macOS 26, macOS Tao, which has been released in October. There's a DKU for Linux users, so DKU 20.2, which upgrades the NVIDIA graphic drivers. And if you are using the cloud on the AWS Flame on the cloud, there's no new, in fact, base AMI, so you can stick with the 2026.1 update AMI for your deployment on the cloud. Yeah, like I was saying, macOS Tao has been qualified with update 1, and we haven't seen any issues. So that means we're able to use the custom, the default version of the 2026.1 update. So that means you can safely, upgrade your operating system and then take advantage of our newer release on both Mac Intel and Apple Silicon, right? Easy and fun. We also have qualified the greatest graphic card from NVIDIA, the RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell Max-Q edition, which comes with a fantastic 96 gig of VRAM. So we all know that Flame likes VRAM, right? So for all the machine learning and all the GPU pipeline in the application, including, of course, the media import for raw formats. So being able to work with that kind of card is great. It comes in two models, 300 watts and 600 watts, but you should probably stick with the 300 watts if you don't want to, upgrade your power supply for these, right? One noticed, because of course we're adding support for a new graphic card, but of course, we might, when we do that, sometimes remove legacy graphic cards. So we had to upgrade the driver, of course, but not only that, we had to upgrade components from NVIDIA, like the CUDA driver and the Tensor RT, which are used for our machine learning capabilities, which means that moving to these latest version of these technologies remove one feature part of the Pascal generation of GPUs, the P6000, meaning that starting with update 2, you will not be able to use the GPU caching for the morph, time warp, and upscale with this card, right, the P6000. And the drivers still support the card, so you will be able to start Flame. So you can still use Flame if you don't have, a need for the machine learning capabilities and the GPU caching. And based on that, we decided that the next spring with the 2027 release, we're going to stop supporting the P6000, which is a 9-year-old graphic card, right? I mean, if you really want to live the experience of Flame with the new machine learning technologies, well, it's a good idea to, move on and get to a newer graphic cards. To help you on these, we have all our technology partners that have, in fact, websites. So HP has a great website where you can go on and you can look at the various configuration matching for Maya, 3D Max, Flame, and Arnold, which is great. That means it helps you easily get to the workstation that have been qualified and have the right components to run our products. Because as we know, when you work with a qualified workstation, well, it's remove headaches from your daily workflows, and then you can concentrate on creating magics with our applications. On the color management side, you all remember that in last spring with 2026 release, we came up with Open Color IO to replace SymColor, meaning adopting open standards for color management. So, and we also decided that we wanted to stay, on top of all the releases. And last September, OpenCIO 2.5 has been released, and then Flame Update 2, comes with that. That means that you are able to use Open Color IO config version 2.5, but again, you need to ensure that the rest of your pipeline, in fact, is also compatible. Since we know that not everybody is moving super fast, upgrading their config, we decided, in fact, to stick with the various color management preset in Flame to version 2.4, meaning it's going to be easier to integrate in your current pipelines, especially in the context if you are using OpenFX plugins, because some plugins are using color management and they might still be at 2.4, which means that with the decision we've taken for update 2, it should be easy and fun to upgrade and ensure that the color management backend of the application and your pipeline is compatible. At the same time, we took the opportunity to upgrade color management for Apple Log 2, which is the color science behind the ProRes RAW on Apple iPhone 17 Pro. So that means that if you were to get, let's say, OpenEXR from these files in your Flame workflows, well, you would be able to have the right color in your environment. So, that's the color management capabilities. And you can look with the QR code on the screen if you want to see what else has been done on the Open Color IO 2.5 side. Something else that has been released some months ago is the Alexa 35 Extreme. So that means we needed to upgrade the ARRI SDK to version 9 to be able to support this new camera based on the infrastructure of the Alexa 35. The Extreme, in fact, adds more capabilities. It adds a new codec, the ARRI Core, which goes up to 660 frames per second, meaning that if your production, as the hero camera as being the extreme, and then they need to shoot slow motion, well, they don't need, in fact, to rely on a third-party camera which might have a different color science. So you are able to use the hero camera for regular shots, and high frame rate can be done with the same camera if 660 is enough for you. Ari created a great microsite about this camera and the technology. So there's the Ari Core, which is, like I said, the new codecs. And one of the great things you'll see is the data rate. So as you can see on that slide, Ari Core is half the data rate of Ari Raw, meaning that you have the same great quality, the same raw options that you can change within the application to ensure that you get the most from the camera and at a lower data rate, and of course less disk space. So you'll see very quickly your production customers will really upgrade to that workflow, meaning that you really need to move to update to be able to decode this file and avoid to do transcoding, in other applications. So update 2 has everything to cover you in this workflow. And as we know, with digital acquisition, well, you need to be on top of that with the latest and greatest version of your applications for your production. And that's it for me. Unless there's something else, I might, we'll let Fred, in fact, entertain us with the new capabilities in the application.
Great. Thank you for that, Stephane. Fred, you are up with your screen share.
Yeah, sure. GPU intensive, and we have a lot of GPU tools in Flame. So a lot of users were saying, you know what, sometimes my performance are degrading and I need to restart the application. So Flame has mechanism to deal with the memory used by the application, of course, but sometimes it's true that to get back to your optimal performance, you had to restart the application. So to prevent you to restart the application, what we did was to add in the resource manager a flush graphics memory button. So you can just open the resource manager, click that, it's gonna reset your VRAM. And to get like the most optimal reset, you may as well go into your preferences and in the user general, clear your undo buffer. So if you were to do those two operations, you would get back the maximum amount of VRAM that you can. Obviously, clearing the undo buffer has the effect of clearing the undo buffer. So make sure that you don't need anything in that event list before you use it.
The crowd has gone wild, and if there wasn't a big delay on our Google stream here, then I'm sure the chat would be flooded with applause of their own.
So the next one, we're gonna talk about some preferences. So we are continuing improving on what we've started in the 2025 cycle with the centralized components. And this time we're adding two new aspects to it. So if we bring back our preferences panel and we go to the system, because obviously it's the thing that are in system that are part of this, we have a new media panel tab in which you can now define for new batch groups and new reel groups in your desktop the amount of reels that you want as schematic reels and shelf reels for batch and as reels and sequences reels for a reel group. You can define their name by default and also assign some colors. So for example, if I were to say, you know what, in my batch group, I only need something for my plates and my exports. Then I'm going to say that, and I'm going to say my export is going to be in red, for example. And what I want to do with exports is that when I do a add to workspace, I need the clip to be brought back there. Then if I were to close that and go to new batch group, you're going to see that for that batch, I'm going to have my plates, my exports in red, and my batch shelf with the batch render still. So all of this can be centralized, and as I said, you can actually do that for both the batch group and the real group. The one thing that is really important to understand is those two columns, so the render destination and the add to workspace. So both the batch group and real group have one, and by default, this is going to be used for new render node and write file node to set their default destination. But the thing is that it's not only there that you're gonna set that, but also in the new batch and BFX preferences. So that's the other aspect. And in here, we move a lot of preferences from the user batch and batch FX preferences. So if you go there, you're gonna see that there's a bunch of stuff that is no longer there. Is because it was moved to system batch and batch FX, because we feel that those are the preferences where you work in a larger facility. You want to make sure that everybody uses the same setup, the same path, and so on. So we move them there. And in the render node destination and write file node workspace, you're going to find buttons to define the default destination. So if you say I want my batch reels, it's going to go there. But if you say I want to use my real groups, then for the real groups, you have the choice now to say, do you want to send it to the topmost reel in your real group, the bottommost, or to the default media panel option? And the default media panel option is actually that option here that you have set in your media panel. So if we were to say, for example, I want it to be in my real group and default media panel option, then if I go to my new batch that I have created and I go in batch and add a render node, then you're going to see that it's in my real group and it's in my real one by default there, because in my preferences, it was set to real one there with the check mark. All of those preferences can be, as I say, centralized. So if you go to the sysconfig file, you're going to have under configuration the path for the batch and the media panel as well, if you need to centralize them. Next, we're going to stay quickly in batch. I'm going to actually switch to the other batch group there. So anywhere you have a viewport, so in batch, in the FX tab, in the tools access from the tools tab, you now have access to the same snapshot feature that was introduced in the 2026.1 update in the player. So now if you are in batch here, you're going to do a snapshot on the currently selected viewport. And just like for batch, it's going to bring up that window where you can actually give a name. There are preferences for that. The other thing that is new with this is that once you've done the export, okay, so I'm going to overwrite it, it doesn't matter. When you export the snapshot, we are automatically adding it to the OS clipboard, which means that you could very well then go to an email and just do a paste, and it's actually gonna right away paste you the image that you just exported. So you don't have to go grab it from the location that you have set. So it's already there for you if the meaning was to quickly share it with others. We will continue with something that has been talked about on the forums this week, the node bins. So I've mentioned it on the different forums, but I just wanted to mention it quickly for people who haven't had the chance to read it. But one of the changes that we've made in update 2 is that we have brought up the matchbox shaders and also in action the lightbox shaders. Not all of them, but most of them, I would say, to the all nodes bins. So the reason for that was that in Matchbox, we had actually some tools that we felt were as important as the nodes that were in all nodes. So for example, you can think about Master Grade, A2 Beauty, so some of the larger Matchbox shaders that we have. So we wanted to bring them to give them like the same exposure as other. If you do not want to see some of those shaders that we've added, you can also, as a reminder, this is not new to update 2, but you can select a node in the node bin and use the hide button there to just hide a node. And from the gear menu, you can say, like, you can disable show hidden nodes. So those nodes will not appear anymore unless you check back the show hidden node. So that's a way for you to actually remove the nodes that you do not want to see in the all nodes bin. And the other big benefits that we wanted to do in regards with this feature was to be able to actually bring Matchbox shaders to the custom bin on the right. So you could say, I want to create my own custom bin, and we'll call it Logik, and in there, what I want is a master grade. So now before, you could only drag the nodes that were in the all nodes bin and not in the Matchbox bin, but now you can do that. And there's also a new ML bin that we've created with all the tools that have some ML models available in them. So that's it for the node bins. The next one is a new feature that we've added to the Explorer. So what I have here, very simple shot if you want. So I have a clip with a sky. I have another clip here that doesn't have any sky. I want to comp that, so I simply brought the back, so the sky as the back and the other one as the front. And I wanted to show you, so I'm going to bring up the Explorer. So we have a new tab in addition to timeline effects and references called Inputs. What Input does is that it gives you an access to the connection in your batch schematic that can be created, modified, or severed without having to go back to the schematic itself. So, for example, if I wanted to, in addition to this, add a new layer for, let's say, the position pass or the ZDEP pass, if I wanted to do that without the Explorer, I would have to go back to my schematic. I would have to create my new layer, and then I would have to go connect that. So probably expand the clip, find the proper position, and go back to my one-up. Now with this feature, what I can do without leaving the image is say, create a new input. So you see that Media 2 has been added, and I can say connect to multi-channel and select the position pass, and it has created the position pass for me right away without having to go back to the schematic. So it's not something that brings, let's say, much value maybe if you've been doing that for like a lot of years and you are in your rhythm and you are just used to that. But I think that if you try that new feature, you're going to see that there's going to be some benefits of doing that. And also for new users, it's something that they may be looking at. So we've added that. And another small use case for it, for example, would be if I wanted to try two different versions or two different iterations. So in that case, I have two completely different skies, and I can still play with them without having to go back to my schematic by saying, you know what, the back, I don't want my sky. So by default, you're gonna see that at the top, I have my multi-channel clip and my sky clip available, because those are the clips that are actually connected to my action node. So we are putting all the clips that are in the current branch available at the first level, but I can still have access to other clip and node to the other node in my setup and say, you know what, let me try with Sky 2, or let me try back with the first one. So this is the kind of stuff that you could create, let's say, with a Mux node before, but now it's much easier to do it that way. And what this is really is just an accelerator, because it's actually doing the connection for you in the schematic. So if I were to do it like this, you're gonna see that we just have changed the connection there. So that's it for the inputs in the Explorer. Maybe just a quick note. I just thought about it, not a very small thing, but it was a Flame feedback that was requested. For the render and the write file node, we have added in the context menu the mean to disable or enable. So if you do not remember the shortcut, it's actually a good thing because it shows you the shortcut in the context menu. But we also added that. It was a small Flame feedback that was requested that we implemented. And speaking of Flame feedback, some things that we have added for type. So 3 main things, feedback that we got after we released that for 2026, 2 in the select font widget. So if I were to select this and see my list of font, the first one is that we had a request about having the list displayed, but without the name, using the font themselves. So we've added a gear menu here with an option that is use font to display name and style. If you disable that, you will actually get just the application font to display the name. So sometimes there are some fonts that when they are actually used, they are a little bit harder to actually see. So you could use that. Obviously, if you look at the preview under here, it's still going to use the font to give you the proper preview. Then if you were to favorite a font, so before, if I would say set that as a favorite, set that as a favorite, what we would do is that we would add them to the top of the list, so you don't have to find them when you scroll. We have changed that behavior now when we've added a favorites tab at the end, so you can go to the favorites tab and quickly access your favorites right there, instead of sometimes scrolling back to the top. And lastly, in 2026, we actually had a channel for the layer opacity, but it was not in the user interface, so we've added that. So if you look here, you're gonna see that at the right, at the top of the paragraph section, there used to be the layer section with the width. We have moved that to the left under the character section, and it now contains a opacity controls. Just so you know, if you select only some characters and modify the opacity only of those characters, the layer opacity obviously will be relative. So you're gonna see that the disk will fade in a relative manner with the character's opacity. And that's it. That's it for me, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. That was great. We only have one question, and it's from our friend Quinn, who was curious to know if it is possible to promote a font to be a project font after the fact, I guess, in the middle of a project, I guess.
You could. You could, but it wouldn't turn them here as a project font automatically. I think you would have to still to create that link. I don't think that honestly, I don't remember what we've done. I'm trying to remember. I can check it and get back to you, Quinn. But I think that when you select the font, if it's a project font, then we're creating kind of the link with the table in the preferences. But after the fact, you can still define the font, but you will need to reload the font through a setup load, or by reloading the font in the widget for the link to be created.
Yeah, because isn't it that you could, at any time, you could add a font to the project font, but if a specific node is not explicitly looking at that font as a project font, then of course it's not going to update.
Yeah. You can see, you can know that by looking at the name of the font here. If there are no number between parentheses at the end, it means that there's no link with the project font.
Otherwise, Fred, nothing but extremely positive comments throughout, and I especially liked, I think the biggest activity was actually about maybe something that's objectively a slightly more straightforward one, which was the default batch and reels preferences. Obviously, that's something that was Pythonable in the past, but not everyone has access to Python or have Python developers. So just giving that to the people was a nice
and it's
thing.
something we're doing every day, right? So
yeah, great. Thank you very much, Fred. I think we're going to switch on over to Francis now. So Francis, I'm going to look at your screen, and I'm going to do this.
Unmute me, right?
Unmute you. That's right. Yeah. Okay. We're ready.
Good. All right. So maybe before I start, Jeff has done an amazing video for us to promote 2026.2. So Jeff, after I look at your video, was like, what am I going to present? Everything you already did so well in the video. So I'm going to try to go more into detail, things that maybe in the video you had to go like quickly because of the time span you had available for those video. But just so you know, there will be also Jeff covering all of those features with nice images coming up in the near weeks, or I don't know what the time frame for the video, but that's coming up. So here's the agenda for today. So I wanted to do a quick introduction of where we are at with machine learning. Obviously, 2026.2 is very focused on machine learning. There is a feature that came on because of a new workflow we introduced in the selective. So we'll get over that. And then there's also an update for Mac OS user for time warp, morph, and upscale. So at the end, we'll cover that. So the introduction I wanted to get is where we are at with machine learning. So we have done like a long time ago more what we can call more experiment, like I think it was maybe 7 years ago, around object segmentation. Back then, I mean, the technology was not what it is today for machine learning. So in the last few years, you've seen time warp, morph, and upscale that are using up-to-date technology, and they're performing well. So we were like, okay, we need to do the same for segmentation. So we look at the literature and see, okay, what model are we starting with? So we stated for what you can see with Automatte. I'll explain why we choose that specific model to do the segue with what Andy presented last time. I'll explain the dataset specification, so you have kind of you're up to date what to expect and how to use the model, because as Andy pointed out, it's I mean, if you're trying to fight against the model in terms of what dataset it has been trained on, I mean, you will just not be very successful. So I'll try to get you up to speed on what we've done, and also about the future, where we want to go with that model. So let's dive in. And then after that, we'll cover the workflow. So first thing first, I'll just bring up this image. It's not a super high quality image, but I wanted to bring up this image so we can appreciate like why we choose the Automatte workflow. Model, I mean, not workflow. Automatte is not the typical machine learning model you see maybe in other software where they ask you to choose a foreground and a background and extract segment the object based on that information. It's more a model that will use the whole image and an ROI to detect the hero object and extract the hero object. We use this model because it's more suitable, I guess, maybe a bit better at extracting small details, like you see on that cat, hair and mustache. Like I don't know how you say that, but like all the little strand, I guess, of hair getting out of it. So this is one reason we choose that model. The other also is based on the data set, because legal aspect of machine learning at Autodesk is super important. We need to build those data sets ourselves. And obviously we want to make a choice that's going to give us a time frame that makes sense for us to deliver the feature to you guys. So that's the reasoning behind Automatte. Obviously, there's pro and cons on all approach, and you'll see in the workflow, we realize that it's not one size fit all kind of thing. So it's not like we don't think one specific model will be able to deliver anything you need. It's probably a collection of model eventually that will do that. For all of them having strength and weakness on it. So in terms of the data set, so if I switch to this image, which is a much higher quality image, you'll see that the bird is much smaller in the image than the cat was. So you see right away I have a decent result. And then I have also a lot of small details like we saw with the bird. But you realize that if I look at the image in context, it's missing. It doesn't pick up the whole ear. It's missing at the bottom a bit. So this is where the ROI for that model is very, very important. So the ROI basically refocus the model into like a smaller chunk of the image, making it like more accurate, by detecting the hero object and extracting the matte. So the thing I want to point across here is that every time a feature is not using the let's say most of the image coverage, please use the ROI. You will get much better result. This is another example here of the same thing. It's a human where like that they're getting far away. So if I do the same thing as with the bird, you'll see that it's not that I mean, depending on what you want to do, it could be good, but with the ROI, I mean, it's going to be much better. So if we do so you see, as I'm bringing on the ROI, you see it's kind of the math is kind of reshaping much better around the feature. If we do a before and after, you see the difference. So this is one thing, getting the ROI to stick to the object. The ROI obviously can be animated using AutoKey, and then you see we have put the planet tracker in it. The other thing to keep in mind is we haven't trained with a lot of multi-object. So let's say I'm having those pumpkins here. So there's multiple pumpkins. So you see right away it's getting two of them, not all. And then at some point also in the image sequence, there's that big pumpkin here just goes like a bit wonky. Again, the ROI here will help you, extract either you want one or the two pumpkins, or if you want the two pumpkins, then you can use like 2 layers, to extract both of them, or yeah, or you separate them into two different selective. I mean, it's really what you, depending on what you want to do. But the point here is that if there's multiple objects, you might be better segmenting it in multiple layers. So that's roughly, you know, where we're at with the data set. There is definitely, so if I'm going back to the agenda, so there's the what's the future for Automatte. So currently, I mean, we are trying to make the Automatte being a generic model, meaning it's not gaining like any bias towards human or specific object or specific workflow. But it is something we could do in the future. So if you feel that Automatte should get like really good at something specific, I mean, please do flame feedback requests on it. It is something we can, since we are we're complete control of the data set, we could like focus the model on specific, to be very good at specific things. But right now we're still doing like the generic one. Also, what you're looking at right now is like not anywhere close to, let's say, the maturity of that model. So we can maybe expect it's maybe somewhere in the middle of it, of the training. When we started 0.2 for the one in the beta, we were not even sure we were going to release it in 0.2, depending on the result we will reach by the end of the release. But then we were like, okay, I think it's good enough, and it's a significant upgrade on, let's say, the salient keyer and things like we had in the past. So we were like, okay, that's good enough, but it's not there's still a room for improvement. So yeah, so that's where we're at with this. So if we look at the workflow and the selective breakdown, maybe first thing I should mention before I forget is we have a new section called ML. And this section basically allows you to add not just one specific model of your choice, like it used to be in the keyer, but any of the available model, as well as any ONNX model that you could have used in the inference node that are dedicated to math extraction. So instead of being like, let's say, either or a solution like we used to have, it's like a modular pipeline with blending we're building. So that's why when I said that the final solution for image segmentation is probably not a single model, but a collection of tools. This is we build kind of the framework to allow that right away. So if you notice here, there's no longer a semantic option. So the reason is that the ML tab is replacing that, supersede that. But if you add old setup, the semantic option will appear, and your old setup will still work perfectly fine. The only thing is we didn't want people to be confused in between, two sections to use the same tools. And also we kind of revisited the old workflow, and we wanted also to make it not like not the same option at two different places for the same model. So if we go, let's say, left to right, what you have in that section is the ability to add layers. So here I'm adding like Automatte. Then you see there's a blend modes, but right now there's only one layer. The sensitivity of the model is basically how it's acting on the image at the input of the model. So that could help you get better result, but it's not always the case that higher sensibility will be better. Sometimes lower than 1.0 will get you a better result. But that's not like it's something you need to try when let's say 1.0, the default value doesn't get you what you need. So in this case, you see that probably increasing it a bit give me some more kind of resolution on the air. The range, when you have one layer, the range is it's by default it's sequence. It's probably what you want by default, but the range is basically allowing you to just render a span of frames. And one thing that I want to point out is because Jeff actually we had a discussion about that. If I put like a range that starts, let's say at frame 7, you'll see it becomes a white frame. And the reason why it's because once it's outside of the range, it's basically acting like the layer that is off, right? And if I turn the layer off right now, it's a white frame I have. So just a word, like a quick note here, that if you want, let's say, the range on the single layer to just process a limited amount of frames, and you expect to have black, you can still do it, but you need to feed the black frame. So here you see, I in this clip, I set to output black. You feed it, and then in the media mat here, you can say use the alpha, which is in this case a black frame. And then if I look at my range, you see now I have black. So this could be if you want to use a range on a single layer. The range, however, is probably more useful in multi-layers. So let's say if on this example here, I'm trying to get more resolution on the air, I could say that I put like a ROI just on a portion of the air to get, like, let's say, the resolution I want. And then and if I switch to this, yeah. So and then by doing that, I mean, I could decide, I only want a resolution in between, let's say, frame 7 and the end of the sequence. So if you look at the, oops. So if you look at the mat, if we go to frame, that's frame 6, so you see no Automatte, and if I go at frame 7, then you see that the layer kicks in. Also by default you're at over, but when doing that kind of workflow, you can do in replace, and you see over will be kind of additive. Over will be the result of that layer. So so it's even more like an improvement on the air, let's say, details. So that's the range. And oh yeah, and a side note on the blending. So we added also the ability to use or not the ROI for blending. So if if I don't use the ROI, basically I will blend the whole image. So in this case, it's definitely because of what I did, you definitely want to use the ROI, but also we added the fall off. So if I reduce the fall off, you see we have kind of a sharp blending. So you can increase the fall off to blend in between the section where the first layer is and the replace layer overlap with the blending. So let's get rid of this. Then the ROI tracking, I mean, it's the same as Planner, so it's self-explanatory for everyone knowing Planner tracking on the Gmask. The smoothing aspect will be difficult, I think, to get through a presentation, but the concept is that, so if, let's say, I activate it, the concept is that we use motion vector and a window of frames. So let's say I go to average. Oops. Yeah, this image is definitely not the nicest example, but what is happening is that we create a motion vector map, and we use motion vector through a window to smooth out the edges of the mat when there's like very small flickering on the mat. On this example, the girl moved too much, and from frame to frame the air goes all over the place. So it's definitely not a good example for that. But basically what's happening is in what you set the window is how many frames you get before and after, and which then you choose which filtering you will use to smooth out those small pixel, flickering over time. There's also a batch node equivalent to that in batch that you can use to do that. And then the post-processing is the same as you used to have in the keyer or 3D OV section. If we talk about also blending with the keyer, so we talk about blending layers together. But if we use, let's say, a keyer, and then I use, let's say, highlight, you can also use this menu here of blending to blend. So if I turn off this layer, you see that the just a sec. Oh, I don't know what's going on.
Could it be because of that black in the matte channel that you were showing before?
Oh, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you. I was like, I was wondering for a sec. I was like, okay, there's something wrong, but you're absolutely right. That's the black.
It's okay.
Okay, so if
attention.
thank you. You kind of saved me here. I was like, oh my God, I get a bug or something. It's exactly that. So if, let's say, I use a highlight a key, and I want to, let's say, not have any other highlight than on the girl, I mean, I can definitely use Automatte to then use this menu to comp to limit the key, with the ML section. There's other option here. You can do an add or a multiply. So depending on if you want inside or outside. In the blend, you see here that definitely, if you want it sharp, you can definitely use those post-process option to shrink that map down. If you would like to limit the Automatte to, let's say, only a portion, obviously you can use Gmask. So I can use my Gmask preset. But then you need to use the Gmask blending. So by default, it's additive. So it will add to it, but you can turn that to multiply, and then you can limit the Gmask, the ML with using the Gmask, and then the keyer with the option of the shape isolation here. Yeah, another example I have here of blending of the selective is, let's say, if you want to do something that is so by default, let's say on this image, if I add a layer, an Automatte layer, it's going to get the car, right? Because that's kind of the hero object, and it's going to be the most prominent, let's say, feature. Let's say I want the garbage can. So if I hide the car for now and put the garbage can, then I have a problem because the car also gets into the ROI, right? So one way to fix that is you can add the a layer with the car and then put it in. So if I put it in over, you see that I have both the car and the garbage can. But if I do a cutout, then I can only get. So you can use like additive or subtractive blending. Also, the other thing here is I wanted to highlight the fact that we put that diagram in the documentation. So if you want to refer to the blending inside the selective, you can consult the documentation to refresh yourself about, okay, what's blending with what, because obviously it's a bit we do kind of a lot of stuff for you guys under the hood. Sometimes when you have it in mind, it's fine. When you try to learn it, maybe, or you haven't used it for a while, might be a bit confusing. So at least in the documentation, you can get back to it. All right, so selective math. So one thing that was asked for a long time in the selective was the ability to output a math. So we had kind of a workaround, but was not super elegant. So what we did is, so if I look at my this image, I have, let's say, Automatte, like I show you. So I'm extracting that bird. But let's say and I've done some color correction on it. So if we look at the result, you'll see that I've done some changes to the color inside of it. But then let's say if I want to extract the matte of the also as well as the color, before we had to use a matchbox and it was a bit complicated. So now we have an explicit workflow to do that, which is a new pipeline. So the pipeline is called matte. So you used to have serial comp in parallel. Now we have a new pipeline. And that pipeline, when you set it up, it's behaving very closely to serial, but will output the matte of the selective. Also, the idea of the pipeline is that you can use it on multiple selectives. So that's what I did here. So if I select my selective 2 and unhide it, you see that in this selective, I basically I'll go back to my color. Okay, so you see in this, right now in this selective, I inverted the bird and then I can control the background. So then I have basically the shade, the matte of the inside and the matte of the outside. So if we look at F4, F8, this is what I have. So you can, if let's say I go back to the Automatte here and I choose, let's say, matte, you'll see that I can combine in the pipeline the different mattes. So in this case, it doesn't make any sense because it's one is the invert of the other. But I just wanted to show you that the blending option. So if by default it's uncolorated, but you see that if I go to adjacent, then I'm a pure white because both matte are adjacent to one another. But you can you can use any of the blending mode to control how the pipeline is being combined together. I have a better example here with the little truck, where what I want to output here is I have, let's say, I've done some changes in color for the truck as well as the headlight. And then, so if we look at the bolt matte, I have the headlight and I have the truck here. So if, let's say, I would like to output a matte of, let's say, the truck without the headlight, it's something we can do. So if I look at the pipeline here, I put both in matte, and then I was define this one is minus the other one. And then I have an output matte that is the truck without the headlight, while still doing color on the truck. So again, same as for the other the pipeline, we put the diagram of the pipeline of the selective pipeline in the doc. So if you want to refer to the difference between what's going on under the hood, serial, parallel, comp, and matte, I mean, you can go back to the doc. So how are we doing for time?
We're doing pretty good. We're toward the
Okay,
end,
so
but we're doing fine.
Okay. Well, I have two other examples to show. I'll go quickly, and then and so I think I have maybe 5 minutes, so that's fine.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So what does that mean? That new pipeline is that we can basically selective can then be used in GMass Tracer, right? Because now we can use the selective to output a matte. So a bit like if it was kind of a modular keyer. Meaning that right away you can use, let's say, you can create a surface in GMass Tracer, add selective. By default, obviously, those will be automatically in matte pipeline. And it's adding a few more control that you may want to use in an environment like GMass Tracer. For example, you can create multiple output with segmenting, let's say, the image per output. So what we have here is 2 dogs. So what I did is, if we go to so what I did here is that I extracted both dogs with their own ROI on 2 different selective. Then I put like each selective on a different output. And then if I toggle in between my output, you see I have my 2 dogs. The other thing that you can do is if you want to use, let's say, a more than blur to process those matte, you can use a matchbox connected to all of the selective to process, and then whoops, not that one. So, and then you can control the matte, the rendering of all the matte, with one shader basically. So also you could use with Gmask on those selective and any other of the tool available for the selective to create matte. So that's a way to, if you really like those way of extracting matte, you can use it not only in image and action, you can also use it now in Gmask Tracer. Last example is just like also to add the concept that all of what I showed you so far is also usable directly in action to do compositing. So if so, what I do, I have here, I have this background, I have the same image I showed you earlier with the girl on this field, and then I have the bird that I also show you. You can quickly, composite all of those together directly in action schematics. So so what I did is I use Automatte with master grade to match a bit of the color of the background. I put like a physical bokeh on the background, and then I added the bird again on another layer with Automatte, and then Automatte for the shadow of the bird. And then you can quickly composite directly in the schematic, all using the matte output. So for example, for the shadow, I use the master grade to like put the image, to really dark, which give me my shadows. And then obviously you can add any light effects, and then you can even having text, and then everything is like comp in 3D basically. So that's just my little reminder that all of that is kind of working in our environment and can be used. Obviously, I mean, there's maybe other way you're used to do all those things, but it's just giving you a bit of more option, let's say. Now, lastly, we work really closely with Apple, and we fix all the problem that we had to run. Like by the way, all of what I showed you so far with Automatte has been run on Apple. I'm on a Mac, on a laptop. It's all have been and Automatte is leveraging the GPU and the neural engine chip on the Apple Silicon. And we also work closely to Apple to provide that for time warp and also for upscale. So now you see, I'm actually doing a time warp of 40% on that shot, and it's a lot faster than it used to be. And also right now with this resize here, I can do an upscale of 2x, which was not possible previously. But then you see, what's the performance of it. So it's very close to what you can have in Linux. Linux is a bit faster, but it's really night and day before what we have prior to 0.2. The bad news for maybe some of you is that this is only available on Apple Mac Silicon 15.4 and up. So that's it. Any question?
It's a fine compromise, I think, because the latest and greatest is always what you have to shoot for, of course. And I have personal experience knowing that may not be as fast as Linux, but it is very fast and wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's. I mean, I guess we are in the snappy thing, right? It's no longer like, oh, it's taking I don't know, 30 seconds versus 1 second. I think the difference is really on the snappiness of it. Like I realize working with QA on my team, at some point they look at my screen, they were like, why is it like sticking like that? I was like, what do you mean? And then on Linux, because they was testing on Linux, I was on my Mac, it was a bit snappier for them, so it's really that kind of small differences there, but it's no longer like a huge thing. But even for upscale, it's a massive difference. I don't remember how much it was taking per frame on the Mac one, but I mean, we did not even release it on Mac because it was too slow. But it's a massive difference running on the GPU and the neural engine chip than CPU for those models.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have one question, and it's less of a question and more of a one final demonstration. Our friend Sébastien Albert from France wants to know if you would be so kind as to pick your favorite mat and just let the audience see how temporally stable it is.
I'll let you pick. Do you have a prefer one?
Oh, I mean, you know this a little bit better than I do, but I don't have
maybe let's go back to the cat.
Oh, that's what the audience loves to see. So maybe maybe turn on the cache feature, I guess, for the node, and then just hit play and see how that one goes.
Right now it's playing, so I'm not sure how much you see it. Like on my end, it's maybe it's not the same speed for all frames, but it's maybe like, I don't know, a second per frame or something like that. The node will automatically cache. So you see I've played it back once, and then now if I play it back, you see it's now I'm playing back a cache, you know. At the end, it's actually the same frame being repeated because I don't have 45 frames for that sequence.
Yeah.
But so now you see I'm scrubbing it very quickly because I'm no longer asking the model to generate the frames. But I guess the question was more about if it was a temporal if it was stable temporally. I mean, some shot. When you will get like temporal stability, it's usually when you have occlusion, and then usually the ROI is your friend. So let's say on this shot, I use a cat because also I'm like, okay, that's the feature, the main hero feature of the shot, and I know it's working. If I, let's say, use the bird, let's say, I will probably have to say, okay, let's put the ROI. If I use, let's say, a feature that's moving way too much, then maybe I'll have to create a few keyframes of the ROI, you know. But usually it's not too bad. The temporal aspect is pretty good.
Great. Well, that was the only question we had. So I think that might be the end of our presentation today. So thank you, Francis.
All right. So are you going to invite me again? Did I do a good enough job?
We're going to take a poll, and the audience is going to decide whether you're invited.
Because I was very stressful for that. I'm like, what if they don't like me, and next time they just invite Fred? I was like, oh no.
Oh. No, you did great. You did perfect. Great presentation, very clear, great examples. There was a lot of great examples there. So you have my vote, at least.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, the final conclusion, Sébastien Albert from France says it is more usable than the previous salient keyer. So you have succeeded in Sébastien.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's. I mean, to be fair, it's not the same space age. You know, it's like a salient keyer is from another, another time. But I mean, and again, I mean, stay tuned. We know that Automatte is not the do all. You know, it's specific. It does what it does. You will definitely some of you will say, oh, I prefer using this other model for those use case, and it's possible. The thing that for us, for the future of Automatte, it's really like we'll continue training it, trying to make it generic. As I said, if you say, okay, it doesn't work and good enough for this or that use case, you mostly do, please let us know, and we can maybe think about doing some specialization of Automatte. An example maybe I can provide that came up on the beta is, let's say on that data set, you see the cat with the N is being removed, you know, and it's exactly what we wanted. Like, that's what we put in the data set, is like, let's have the cat, not the N, right? But if it's the opposite. I just want the end. We realize it doesn't work because we haven't put and in the data set. So it's things silly like that you don't think about. But let's say if it's really important for you to remove n, from when I said n is holding a product, and that you're not necessarily interested in having the product without the and, but having the and for whatever reason, then it is something we will work on, to add and human and on the data set.
Makes sense to me, and it's great that there's always room for improvement. But
yeah, definitely on that one, we're far from the end of it.
We'll see how it goes. Thank you, Francis, and thank you, of course, Stephane and Fred, and thank you for signing up to hang out some more on the patrons Q&A. So I appreciate that, and thank you for your time today. And we'll see you over there in just a few minutes. So thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Now it is potentially some of our audience's favorite time of the show, and that is prize time. Prize time. Oh, almost there. So here I have a list of names for the people who have signed up for the show, and we are going to give away 1 month of Logik Academy Pro, and the winner is none other than Paul Round. Congratulations to Paul Round. 1 month of Academy Pro. And we have one more item to give away. It is 1 month of Boris FX, the full suite. And the winner is Darina Doorley. Congratulations, Darina. And that is our giveaway. So here we are at the end of the show with some final announcements before we ride off into the sunset, and that is our upcoming shows. Coming up on Logik Live, we do have a handful of shows, but if you're extra observant, you might notice that these dates do shift around. This slide here is more of a loose guideline, and the real way to know what's coming is to check your email, because when a show is a go, you'll get an email that week, usually on Tuesday or Wednesday. But anyways, what I can tell you is that I'll be back next week to talk about what's new in Silhouette 2025.5 to host our friend Christophe Zaplatal and Silhouette lead developer Paul Miller. So that will be quite nice if you're interested in learning more about the industry standard paint and roto tool from Boris FX. And we might sneak another show in between that, but it's too early to say for sure. So the next show on the docket is November 30th. Sinan Viral has agreed to sign up for showing us a taste of what he showed us over at IBC with a presentation on particles. So if you are even a little particle curious, be sure to tune in and see what Sinan has to say and pick his brain, because here on Logik, Sinan is known by some as the Prince of Particles. And as always, before we go, I can't finish up without saying a big thank you to the people who make this show, Logik Live, right here, a reality, and that is our Patreon patrons. Big thank you to every single person on this list here. We're clocking in at 146 patrons as of this show, so thank you to everyone on this list. If you'd like to support what we're doing here and get access to things like the patrons Q&A chat that we do after just about every show, head over to patreon.com/LogikTV and support for as little as $5 a month. Has been a little bit since we talked about Logik Academy Pro, but as of just the other day, I finished making the IBC 2025 masterclasses available for free thanks to Lucid Link. It was quite the lineup, so if you were there but you want to double check your notes, or if you weren't there and want to listen in on a cool presentation by some of your Logik friends, feel free to log in over at logicacademypro.com and take a look. Again, these were all made available for free thanks to our friends at Lucid Link. We have a very active forum, forum.logik.tv. We have a Discord for hanging out and chatting. Logik Live has 2,640 subscribers on YouTube, so press the subscribe button so that number keeps going up, and I just keep telling you what that number is. We have a merch store if you are merch inclined. Boris FX is a wonderful sponsor of Logik Live, and if you would like to save 15% on all of their offerings, you can visit logik.tv/BorisFX and click on those affiliate links if you like deals and things like Mocha or Sapphire or Synthesize and more. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you to Fred, Stephane, and Francis for being with here on a Sunday. I cannot thank them enough for giving us our time. To the community, all three of them, and actually we're also joined by Jasmine Frenette as well. So it is a four team extravaganza in the patrons Q&A. And those patron chats are always a blast. So I'll see all of them over there in just a minute. But for now, to all of you who are here still, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And I will see you next time on Logik Live.